What up everyone, it's your boy Jester James here, coming at you with another YouTube video. So today we're in the last few videos, we're talking a lot about networking hardware. Now we're going on to our portion of our networking basics series where we're actually going to be doing some of that classic networking, and it's all going to be software based, and we're going to be able to do some lab works a little bit here. So in the next couple of videos, we're going to be building out a network. And in the first video here, this one, we're going to be talking about subnetting. So we're actually going to be breaking down what an IP address is, how to assign an IP address, all the different components that computers need to be able to talk to one another and to route their network traffic to wherever they need to go based off of an IP address and all the magical wonders that go behind an IP address. So right off the bat, we're going to be talking about subnetting, and subnetting is a topic that took me a long time to actually learn and fully understand, just because there's a lot of different elements there. You're working in two different numerical systems. We have decimal and then we have binary, and in the video I go over different aspects of it. I'll be going over IP addresses, what is an IP address, I go over subnetting, how to subnet. So there's fixed length subnetting and then variable length subnetting. And then I go over the network address, the broadcast address, the gateway address, how an IP range can be configured, so the amount of IPs that can be assigned. And then I also go over what a subnet mask is and how computers are actually able to go and interpret an IP address and such along those lines. And I know this video is longer than usual, but that's because, again, I go over the different angles that there are to subnetting, so this video can really be an inclusive, all-in-one subnetting video where it's got all the different things covered, from the binary elements to the subnet masks to the IP ranges and the gateways and such, and we even got the variable length subnetting in there as well. And with that, let's take it away. We'll start off with a basic IP address, and I'll let James behind the microphone take it away. So let's go, James. Alright. Let's check to make sure we are recording here. Yes, we are. Sweet. Alright. So right off the bat here, I got a couple things written down. We have the 0.0.0.0 and 255.255.255.255. So as you can see, these are two IP addresses, and I have next to them their CIDR notation. So CIDR stands for classless interdomain routing, and that's the method that's used for allocating IP addresses. So how do we get an IP address? How do we assign IP addresses? How do we subnet? All of that is used through classless interdomain routing. That's the long word for it. We're just going to cut it down. A lot of folks, the industry, we just call it CIDR. So, from /0 to /32. So you can only have, it only goes up to a maximum of /32. So really, you can have /0 to /1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to /32. Now, the reason why I'm going to start with this is because I'm going to break this down right now, right here. So, right off the bat, right, let's go one level up and do a /1, right? So what you're looking at here, these IP addresses, we're actually looking at it in decimal notation. So decimal notation, what that means, right, is we're looking at it in the powers of 10. We're using our normal human way of our normal numerical system that we use, which is the powers of 10. So, right, when we have like $1.37, I can tell you that sevens is in the ones place, this 30 is in the tens place, this dollar is 100 cents. So, like, that's 100 cents for a dollar, if that makes sense. That's just our regular number system. So computers don't understand that by themselves. Computers, they only understand two things. Like a light switch, they only understand electricity. Ones and zeros, off and on. So, zeros and ones. So what we're looking at here, actually, when you see a 0 here, we have 4 octets. So they're called octets because octet, octagon, oct, that's 8. So what you're looking at here, actually, is 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. You're looking at 4 ones, and over here, what you're looking at is 4 zeros. Or 8 zeros, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 8 zeros. So an IP address is actually a 32-bit address. It's 8 bytes in each octet, right? So 8 times 4, because there's 4 of them, is 32. And that's what an IP address actually is. Let's say I'm going to have that /32. Let's say I want to drop it down. So this 255, right? So a 255, 255, 255, 255, that means we have 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, dot 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. So this 255, 255, 255, 255, this is all filled to the brim. You don't have any IP addresses here at all. You can't use any of them. Or, as a computer would say, because there's ones, you have all of them. So, actually, you have all of the IP addresses used up. Now, the other way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8... 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm not going to keep drawing there. Let's just imagine that for a second here. So let's just break it down into an octet, right? So let's actually understand an IP address. In this 0.0.0.0 network, each of these bits in binary represent, very much like our decimal system is in powers of 10, binary is powers of 2. So we have 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, and 128. Keep this in mind for what we're going to do now. So right off the bat, I'm going to give an IP address. So this is the default IP address that you'll have with your router at home. This is a private IP address, so it works on your home network. And right off the bat, your first network address for your home network is probably 192.168.0.0, and it's going to be a /24. So a /24, if we go back up here, right, so /24, so a /0 is that 0.0.0.0. The /32 is 255, 255, 255, 255. And the reason behind that, why is that 0? It's because you're not using any of the bits. In a 255, right, in this 11111, this long string of ones, if you count them up, there's 8 ones per each octet. And in each of the octets, that's 8 bits. So 8 plus 8 is 16. So 8 times 4 is 32. That's why the CIDR notation for these addresses are /0 and /32. So that's CIDR explained. Now, going forward, we have 192.168.0.0/24. And this is your basic IP addressing scheme. This comes out of the box with your router and such, and this is the default address as stated by the folks who built and engineered the Internet Engineering Task Force. Yes, those folks exist, and I'm not going to go too much into them because I don't know the history or anything about that too much, but okay, so we have a /24, right? A /24 means we're allowed to use only this portion. Why? Because that means this portion is used, so actually you're only allowed to use this part. So the /24 actually, what that is 255.255.255.0. Because, remember, there's 32 bits that are used, so that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. So these 3 octets, so there's already 2 things here that you can see. So when you're subnetting and when you're doing your IP addressing, there are 5 things that you're looking for, and there's 5 things that you want to figure out. First thing is going to be your network address. The second thing is going to be your broadcast address. The third thing is going to be your gateway or your router address. The fourth thing is going to be the range. Then the last thing is going to be your subnet mask. So I've already showed you the network address and the subnet mask. So 192.168.0.0/24, with this, we already are given 2 things. That /24 is our CIDR notation that tells us that the subnet mask is going to be a 255.255.0. Why? Because that /24, remember, that /24 right here, right, that's the notation for that 255.255.255.0. Very much like here, that 0.0.0.0 is the CIDR notation for /0, and 255.255.255.255 is the CIDR, is the long notation for that /32 in CIDR. Now, we already know here that we're only allowed to use this last set of addresses. So we have 255, or technically 256 addresses that we can use of the 5 things we want. So we already know the network address. That's going to be 192.168.0.0. That's our network address for our first subnet. Now, the router address is just going to be the first address that you can actually use in your usable range. So technically, we can use 0 all the way up to 254. And we can only use up to 254 because .255 is going to be what's called our broadcast address. And .255 is the broadcast address because of the fact that you can go and look at just this octet. So, right, with this addressing scheme, 255.255.255.0, that subnet mask, that tells the computer that, look, we know this 192.168.0, that's going to be those 3 octets. That's not going to change. That's how we're going to be able to signify each network. So, right, that being said, 192.168.1.0 is going to be a totally different network. For known as well, this .1, the first address here is going to be your router address. And that's, the first address is going to be your gateway or your router address, because that's how your computer is going to be able to leave your computer and go onto the network. And that last address is going to be the way for the computer or your router, wherever you're putting this information in, to go and say, how am I going to be able to go and see how all the different computers or hosts that are on the network? That's why it's called the broadcast address, because it's going to broadcast to see what's there. Let's go, and we have, remember our 5 things: network address, broadcast address, gateway, range of IPs, and our subnet mask. So we've already gone and checked those off. So we already know that all. We got the network address here. This is the network. This is the router. The range technically is actually 2. I can erase that. .2. .1 is the router. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so that's everything. We got everything. And then this is going to be the next subnet up. So that is going to tell you that's a different network. So .2 is a totally different network. So what that means is an IP address of 192.168.0.2 is not going to be able to talk to an IP address of 192.168.1.2, for example. So that's subnetting, and with a /24, you can have as many different networks as you want, with the amount of hosts that you can use on that network are technically, I think, 253 because of the fact that, or 254, because of the fact that the first one's going to go to the router and then the second one's going to go to the broadcast. So, that being said, let us clear this screen here. Now, let's break it down and let's actually subnet. Let's go and do a /28. And I'm just going to do a /28 for the sake of learning, I guess. And instead of a 192.168, I'm going to do 10.0.0 /28, and just for reference, 192.168 and 172. 16 so the zeros, they go up to 255 if I haven't said it enough. And then the 10.0.0.0. So these are the 3 private IP address ranges that you can use. So any IP address that isn't in these 3 ranges, in these blocks of IP addresses, those are publicly routable, as in you can go and talk to the internet. So if you go and say, what's my IP, you'll notice that it's in the range of the public IP addressing space. So I'm going to erase that. Just some prerequisite knowledge and good knowledge to have as well. So 10.0.0/28. So that /28 has a subnet mask. Let's figure that out. So /28, you can either go and use a cheat sheet. So there are cheat sheets out there. So /28, this is an example of a cheat sheet. So /28 has the network mask of .240. Now, the reason why I'm using a cheat sheet now is because I went over all of this before. That's why this video is very long. Because I wanted to go and dive into every single different perspective that you can take when you're actually going and learning this stuff. So a /28 is a .240. So that's going to be 255.255.255.240. Now, I can go and determine that by going and doing this as well. Remember, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 dot 1, 1. Come on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 dot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And so far that's 24 ones. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 28. That leaves the last 4 bits for us to use. So actually, right, that 240, we're going to change this down to binary. And actually, we have to do this. Why? Because remember, we need those 5 things. So we have our network address here. This is our network address. We got that. We got our subnet mask here. But don't forget, we still need our gateway, range, and broadcast address. So actually 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 4, 8. So that's 16. It stops at 16. So this is a method this is a quick way to figure out what your next subnet address is going to be. So it's going to be 16. That means that for me, I know now that 10.0.0 dot 16 is going to be the network address for the second network, aka the subnet. Come on. So that being said, now then, with that, I know that must mean that 10.0.0.17, or not 17, but 15, is going to be the broadcast address. For this first network. And then the range is going to be from .01 or from .1 to .14, and I'm going to use that first .1 is going to be our gateway address. And that's everything. That's our 5 things. So for this first network, 10.0.0/28, we have the broadcast and the gateway now. Now, let's not forget about this second subnet now. So we have this 10.0.0.16, right? So this 10.0.0.16 is still a /28. So now, let's say we want to subnet it again. So we're going to subnet it again using the same subnet CIDR as a /28. So we're not going to borrow any bits or anything. So what that means, right, is just going to be that our network address now for this one is going to be that 10.0.16. But now the 10.0.0.17 is going to be the gateway, aka the router. We'll just call it the gateway. And then the range is going to be from 18 to, remember, it's 15, so we're going to go from 15, 15 is 30. So .18 to .30. So these are the amounts of actual IP addresses that we can assign to anything we want. So a lot of the times the range technically is .17 to .30, but I would go a step further to say .18 to .30. Just because I know that the first address is going to be the gateway. Alright. And that's 3. We know our broadcast is /28, so it's going to be that 244, 244, or 255, 255, 255, 240. So let's put that 240 there as well. .240. That's going to be our subnet mask /28. We already knew that though, so that's good. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. And one more thing. That's going to be our broadcast address. Alright, yeah, so our broadcast address is going to be that .31 because it's the last IP address that is there, one step up. So remember here it's 16. So the next subnet would be 32. And then it would be 64. Then it would be, well, 15 or 16, right? Because you're going up by 16. So 32 plus 16, 8, 48. So /28, you're using those, you're going in powers of 16 there. Or you're going in 16. Not powers, but multiples. Remember what we did here to determine the initial range was 16 hosts, or 6, yeah. So that's fixed length subnetting. So that's 2 /28s. You can go and do that on any number of or any CIDR notation you want. So remember that /28, the amount of hosts is 16. You can do anything here, and this is why these cheat sheets exist, because we're not going to go and do the binary every time. that's how you use the cheat sheet as well, though. So that being said, one last thing, because I know we are already about 34 minutes in. I don't want this to get to an hour, because I've remade this video and I've tried to re-record it multiple times, but I want to make sure I get everything out just so there's maximum ability to understand, but that also comes with the caveat that it might be even more confusing, which I'm willing to take the risk just because subnetting was the hardest thing for me to learn in my undergrad. Okay, moving forward from that little shapashita there. So 10.0.16, right? So we already subnetted it into two networks. So we subnetted that /20, that 10.0.0.0/28 into two networks now. So we have two subnets. But now what if actually, technically we have three. We have the 10.0, the 15 to the 16, and then we went all the way up. We could go, we already know that given this range, the next one up would be 32. So technically we have three subnets already. But remember, in our cheat sheet, the maximum number of subnets that we can have in that /28 is actually 16. And you can only have 16 subnets because, remember, you can only borrow so many bits here. You can only borrow so many bits in the binary there in order for you to have that many subnets. Why? Right? Because 16 bits up would be a filling of that 255. All right. Now, let's actually change this. Let's say I have that 10.0.16. Let's say instead what I want to do, let's say I want to save some IP addresses. So a /28, you can have 16 hosts. A /29 has 8 hosts. So let's say I want to drop it down to have 8. So let's just recap to make sure we have all the stuff we have. So variable length subnetting is very much like fixed length subnetting. The only difference is that we already have our first network already defined. So I already have, remember, we already have this 10.0.0/28. So our first network is 10.0.0/28 with a 255, 5.255.240. And that first range, right, .1 is the gateway. And you have from .2 all the way to .14. .15 is the broadcast. Now, with a /28, right, the next subnet up, if we were to continue, would be that 16. So that 10.0.0.16, instead of a /28, we're going to make it a /29. And what that means now is we simply do the same process we did here, but on this 10.0./16. So now we have 16. We have to remember that that 16, we're going to borrow another bit here from that. So what that means is with that, we're just going to do the same fixed length subnetting as if it's a /29. So /29 is 255 we know that we already know that these 3 octets are going to be fine. Oh well. Okay. This one, and then this one. Not going to change. Now, this 16 is actually what was going to become. The /29 becomes a 248. I know that just because I've done this enough times. What that means now, though, is remember that dot 16. So that dot 16 in binary is, so 1, 2, 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, so one more, 16. LOL, I knew that. 1, 0, 0, 0, 0. So 248 in binary is simply, right, if this is here, we're simply using this, we're going to take this, we're going to cut this bit out. So usually, a lot of the times when people teach subnetting, they actually do the opposite way, and what they'll do is they'll say, we'll actually borrow this bit and make that a 0. I'm just going to do the reverse, just because if you want to do it like, it's the same way, like it's the same thing. So we're taking away that bit, and what that means then is that the 16, right, that's going to be our network address. But we don't really, we're going to use that 248, so we have that 8. So that means we have 8 number of hosts that we can use now. You see, it's not too complicated with that prior knowledge at this point, right? Because now we're doing that variable length. So we have 10.0.16. That means that now 10, let me fix that. 10.0.0. Let me check the time. Okay. 16 is going to be your network address. And you can keep that network address because of the fact that we're still using our powers of 2 here because we're in binary. However, that 10.0.16 now, this dot 17 is going to be your gateway. But now because of the fact that we're on a /29, we only have 8 hosts. So 18, dot 17 all the way up to dot 22 because of 7 plus 6, right? Because 8. So 16 plus 8 is 24. Remember, so our next network, our next subnet up, technically, would be that slot dot 24 would be the next subnet. But we want to drop it down because we're still trying to figure the other one. So dot 23 is going to be your broadcast. Which means you only have until dot 22 as your range. Now remember, we needed our 5 things. And we have those 5 things now. The network, the gateway, the range, the broadcast, and our subnet mask. And the reason why we need our subnet mask is because the subnet mask is what tells us what's going to be the next subnet. So that's subnetting in all the different forms. I hope I did a good job explaining it. There's a lot of different videos and ways for folks that go and explain it online, but this is just all of the ways that I have to do to understand subnetting in its entirety. That being said, I'm going to give it back to the James that'll be in front of the camera now. So take it away, James. Alright, we're back front and center here. had a nice half hour, a little bit longer than that, subnetting, and I hope you are able to understand and grasp all the different elements of subnetting. That way you're able to go and subnet yourself, and when you go and you see an IP address, you actually understand how that works and you understand the different elements that go with that. So usually when you have an IP address, you have that subnet mask in order to be able to understand what part of the IP address the computer has to look at and how to go and route that traffic based off of that. You have the gateway address, or the router as I go and call it, but it's usually the gateway that the computer goes out of and where it's going to route the traffic out of. You've got your broadcast address, so how to go and query all the addresses on the network. And we go and talked about the IP ranges, so how you can go and determine the amount of IPs that you can actually assign in your networks and subnets. And I think that's all of them, the 5 things. So I hope you found this video valuable. I know it was long again. However, I hope this video becomes that one-stop shop and you're able to actually grasp the understanding of subnetting from all the different angles, from the binary to the decimal, and how the computer actually understands that. And if you did find it valuable, please leave a thumbs up, like, comment, and subscribe. And if there's anything that you think this video needs or can improve upon, feel free to leave a comment down below, and I'll take that to heart and we'll go and improve and update from that. And with that, precursor to the next video, we're going to be using Packet Tracer. So Packet Tracer is a piece of Cisco software used in their Net Academy, which if you want to go and follow along with me in the next video, you can go and download Packet Tracer yourself. It's a piece of free software. You can either create an account to go and actually download that with Cisco, and then you could go and take advantage of their Net Academy that dives deeper into Cisco and networking in general. And it's a great place to go and have resources. I'll put a link in the description, and with that, get Packet Tracer set up. I'll go and follow. You can go and follow along with me in the video next, and we're going to go and take what we did in this video with the subnetting, and we're going to just divvy that up and apply it in the Packet Tracer video, where we're going to go and actually be able to assign these computers IP addresses. We'll go and configure a router, and we'll connect them all together, and we'll go and prove our subnetting skills are actually correct and working, and we'll go and be able to take the computers, get them talking to one another, and we'll be able to watch traffic move from one computer to the router to another network and such and such. So I'll see you in the next video. Again, if you found this video valuable and helpful, please leave a thumbs up, like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye!